Dmitry had an interview with a hiring manager for a senior data engineer position. Have a nice time watching. Tell me about a time when one of your colleagues made a mistake that had impact on you.
I was working on the pipeline. On the role as a data engineer, I was working with analytics engineer. My goal was to integrate the data. We had Athena data lake, and I was responsible for Miltana ingestion and initial data transformations like in dbt source and like on quality things, and then handed this to my colleague analytics engineer who should build reports in Looker. He did this and published the dashboard. Next week found out that the metrics wrong, and they impact a bit of marketing stuff and the campaign. On one hand, the first half, my half was good. The second half, my colleague worked on analytics engineer. For me, this is our fault, right? So we work on the pipeline end to end. For me, like I usually, don't find who is the fault. In this situation, what we do, like document, trying to explain what was happened and why this was happened and how to avoid. Basically, the issue was with some very simple thing related to joins between new data sets and overall joins as available marketing stuff inside that produce a correct result. And it was hard to spot when you do development, you just have portion of data. The lesson learned led we just to regroup like how we can check work of each other. For me, it's fine. It's happened, like lesson learned, and move forward to see how to avoid this in the future.
Now, tell me about a mistake you made. Not one you can sweep under the rug, a big one. How did you proceed after that?
I was working on integration of data from IoT devices. It's really big data sets coming from like NoSQL databases. And to avoid fully loading all the data, I built like incremental process based on timestamp that coming like technical field and just running it like every 30 minutes. And I expected that it all works fine. I used the Snowflake, and before even use the dbt, I use the Snowflake store procedures. Right inside, I put the logic with like merge statements and some other things to build this historical data. I was expect everything fine, and then CTO of the company start using this data to build their reports, and I realized that my incremental stuff not working as expected because accidentally, instead of this technical timestamp field in the procedure, I use like my ETL timestamp, and as a result, it's producing crazy duplicates, and it was really uncomfortable moment that this even and he's doing this before even like I completely release it to production. So I was told, I just finished this. Like, yeah, you maybe check it. So on one hand, he helped me to do Q&A on this, but on the other hand, like it's CTO and like, yeah, it's a bit of failure. So for me, just as fast as possible to find the root cause and correct it. And yeah, I found the root of cause. I shared why this was happened. And hopefully in the future, for passing this to anyone else, I will do better testing myself.
You told that you shared how the mistake happened. How did you do it?
I just write the email with root cause of issue. Well, like accepting the fact that it's my fault and highlighting what exactly was wrong and how I corrected this. Most of organizations nowadays, they like failures happen. We just accept the failures happen. You in a safe environment, just move forward and make lesson learned, and yeah, that's comfortable.
Were you in a conflict situation with a stakeholder? What was the conflict about? How did you deal with it? And what was the result?
I have many examples with conflicts, and I think I can share two examples. One example, in early in my career in Amazon, the stakeholder was a financial director. He asked me to do some stuff in manipulate the data in the way that he wanted, but it was really incorrect in terms how the data, how we're storing the data in tables, how we aggregate this. So it's just not how the typical report or dashboard look like. This probably was first and the last time then I disagree with financial director, and then it was my promo doc. This story came up, and it was came up in the way that like Dmitry didn't listen us carefully. It was early in my career was that the moment that I realized, okay, we should care more about stakeholders, and it doesn't matter correct it or not. It's my job to work for them and make them happy, even if they incorrect. I still need to proceed this if I have time and resources. This is basically about earning trust. In my situation, I didn't earn the trust and trying to say no, and it didn't work. But if I would earn trust with this potential director or anyone else, then I have to wait, and I can basically trying to influence in the way that it's comfortable for us and it's beneficial, because it doesn't really matter for him from the engineering perspective or data analytics perspective, is it right or wrong? He has the request and he expected it should be done. And that's right now, I mostly focus on like earning trust with stakeholders. It takes some time, so you just see how they're doing, maybe help them a bit on different little things, and then you have this trust, then you can start influence. The second example was in the different way. It's actually worked really well. I inherited huge table that producing reporting. It was company with identity security, and there was the huge table that collected events about threats, different threats, and number of events. And I found that this table was built not great, but there are lots of reports depending on this. And I even wasn't sure it's correct. What I did, no one asked me for this, I did a deep dive, reverse engineering, starting from reports and then like DBT models, transformations, understanding what it's doing and why it's doing. And I document everything, and then I made the decision to change this. And the problem is, as soon as I'm going to change it, the metrics will change in the dashboards. But because I did this proper, and the instant answer for this change, no, because we have these reports and we have like year over year reporting and so on. How are we gonna if the numbers change, that it's not match? But because I document everything, it's kind of like using decision-making framework, and this is what I currently do. For every kind of solution, I using like decision-making framework, something like Rapid. There are like multiple options, the problem statement. Then I invite everyone who relate to this topic, and in this case, so I wrote the document, I create the Slack group, invite everyone to aware what is happening, why it is happening. Eventually, everyone sign off like, yeah, we ready to move and did the change. After some time, one of the principal security engineer was looking this data and asked me why the year-over-year data not much. And I didn't know this person. It was not among the person who I work together. This big company, S&P 500, they running conference every year in San Francisco, and they have this security benchmark reports that they're pulling every year. And he basically preparing the numbers for CEO of the company to talk over this. And he found that all metrics drops a lot, and he couldn't answer why it's drop alone. So it took a while for me to explain him why it's dropped, and it appeared that initial metrics were wrong because of duplicates. There was one nasty thing in this table, that's why I decided to cut it off. For example, you have the metrics, and you have the metrics per day, but someone decide to add the union, repeat the same metrics with a UTC timestamp offset. If you're not using your UTC offset column in your filter, you will get like 4 or 5 copies of events. And this guy, unfortunately, for last year event, did these things. It was really little change from my side, but impactful inside the organization. And because I did it proper, if I would just go and do the change because I want this, it would be very hard to justify why I did this. But here, we have the group, we have the people, we have like back and forth communication, we have like how much money we save to like delete like 75% of data from Snowflake and so on. Everything is there. And this basically, that's why I'm using this always. as a data engineer, I don't do any decisions that will impact the team or any stakeholders without like putting it into the writing. And this is what I like about Amazon culture, doing the writing.
What decision-making tool are you using? And if you have a problem, what approach will you choose? Make it fast or take the time and create a robust solution.
This particular one, Rapid, I tend to do it fast. I really like in the past this move fast, break things concept, and I still like it because the challenge doing it long, the stakeholders who requested something from you, while you perfection your code, they don't need this anymore, or it will change so much, like how fast things change that they don't need. For me, I'm tend to build some kind of prototype, put this in production, and give the users like start using these to collect their feedback. And I'm talking about not the customer-facing features. I'm talking about internal users like product managers, I don't analysts, whatever person like need metrics, but give the disclaimer that we're working on this. This is early version, like beta, whatever, and feedback is welcome because this feedback will help me to faster identify the problems area and fix them. Yeah, but also all the work related to data engineering is usually related to data quality. Even if I build something, it's already will have some kind of quality checks. Assume the data will be right, but the question is this the right data? Is the right metrics and dimensions we put? That's the thing.
Imagine a head of a legal department came to you and said that the company collects personal data and we need to protect it. What will be your actions to provide safety of this sensitive data?
First of all, for me as a data engineer, my goal is to not put any API data into data warehouse at all. But what I found very often, you come to the company, depends on maturity. It already has like full of emails and like marketing campaigns, like sales team, they all depend on this. And you have like reverse ETL, and it's data is going everywhere, and it's everywhere is emails. Depends on the tools you have. If you have like Snowflake, Databricks, you already have dynamic masking. At least like, okay, there is the data governance process, and ideally there should be dedicated person to this. But the very simple thing you can do, go through all the tables and identify all the columns and all the tables with PI data, emails, first names, addresses, or credit cards. Then you start tracking this. The second one, you need somehow to protect it inside like Databricks, Snowflake. Dynamic masking is helpful. This already will improve a lot. Then you can start, what's about airbag role-based access controller? Can we make sure that this data is only like for the certain people who need the access? It's already improvement. The best solution is actually to prevent data coming into platform. And for example, one project we work on, we had the Kafka streaming into S3, and we use the process that we call like data shield. The idea that it basically takes the JSON payload and based on the rules, it hash all the PI data. You get your, customer mail as a one-way encrypted hash. You can count this as the user ID, but you couldn't identify the person.
Share more details. What will be your first step?
I will document all the places in our data team where we have PI data, understand the scope. And then we come to the options with Rapid framework. I need to highlight the options, what we're going to do.
Will you have any questions for the legal person?
I would ask where is information coming from? Like, why do you think we have PI data? And do you have any evidence? Recently, Snowflake sent everyone who is using Snowflake about issue related with service users. For example, using the user with password for the service user without MFA. It's coming to, not to data engineering team. It's coming to the different people who set up the account, and then they come to you and say, hey, can you check our like Snowflake users and like our security posture with Snowflake? And there is similar might be happening. You're running on AWS. There is a security advisor. Any person can, we have some data in S3, and they might use the Macy service, and they, it's identified PI data in bucket for data engineering team. I want to understand what's the roots of this request.
The legal person tells that we are collecting 15 entities of PI data and it is stored in our data warehouse. We can't allow that ML team use sensitive data in their models. How will you approach and what tools will you use?
I had the exact same case. I was working with ML team, and they would need to see IP address, and the solution that we used is a get exception for IP address to putting as is into some risk assessment and with approval to use IP address, just to make sure that only machine learning team can access it. And this dynamic masking can help it to hide from the rest. Apart from access control and dynamic masking, or not putting this because we need data, there could be set up different instance of, for example, with iceberg catalogs or Athena, you can completely separate the data in governed AWS account that only dedicated staff has the access. But the trade-off here, we don't want to move all the data. You only need to define what's the minimum volume of data you can store there and grant access for them. Another thing, because in our case, machine learning team used the SageMaker. One of my solutions was to completely bypass the Snowflake data warehouse and work directly with S3 buckets, just consume the raw data from here.
Next situation. You found common ground on what you needed to do with PI data. You created a project plan and presented it, but one of the data engineers disagreed with you. What would be your reaction?
Oh, this is a very good situation, and I'm glad it has happened because I can check other opinions, and again, the writing will solve the problem. It will be through the writing, and this is actually what I expect to get from the rest of engineers, their opinions and comments. I'm collect the feedback, I answer the questions, then we'll meet together with the team and managers, go through this, and choose the best option, and then we're coming to this Amazon principle, disagree and commit. We will pick up one option and commit to execute this, because I don't want to be the smartest in the room. I want to do what's the right for organization. If someone has better ideas and the majority support it, probably it's indeed better ideas, and I'm happy to learn from it.
What led you to this position?
I started slowly looking to the job market, and your company looks interesting for me because I know the product. I'm using the product. And it's a pretty big brand that I know for many years. And I think you're doing great stuff. You definitely have lots of data coming in, and I bet you use the data to impact the product. And especially with the number of connectors and features you have, through the data engineering work, you can have impact what features work, what doesn't work, where it's the bottlenecks, and so on and so on. So you can make high impact work. Company itself is important for me, the brand and the companies, and I'm aware about company.
How would you see yourself growing with us?
Overall, for me, I'm seeing growing too, because I like to be individual contributor, looking forward to grow to the staff level, because the staff level is more just impact, right? For example, you show me the chart and the senior more or less responsible in the one box, then the staff will be responsible for the whole thing or the whole organizations. To do this kind of impact, you need to understand what each block doing and what's the connection between them, and you should have business domain knowledge. You can actually start to contribute into bigger scale decisions.
We are running out of time. If you have a short question, I'm ready to answer.
Because I chat with Steve, I chat with you. So far, everything good. I'm aware more or less about stuff you're doing, tools you use. One question I had, you migrate to Databricks. What's the source platform that you're migrating from? Have a good rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.